here's sort of a crystal ball or a wish list item, but given an unlimited budget and I guess in your situation, regulatory environment that would be easy to navigate, um, what would be the first project or initiative you would tackle in 2024 if you had, no restraint, no constraints to you?
So one of the other trends that we didn't talk about in those last two questions was the
Sure.
transition to cloud. I
Yeah.
would like to transition more and more of our compute and our storage to the cloud
Hmm.
as soon as possible. And I want to do that again. So I'm in government and I can no longer afford data centers.
Hmm.
We are not in the data center business, and yet I have all this data that we just talked about, video data and audio data and financial data and HR data. And it's increasing in an exponential, almost like your graph, but more of the hockey stick growth.
Hmm.
And again, I can't afford the power to run those servers or the real estate to have all those racks or the humans to run that. So all of that needs to get uprooted from agencies like mine and placed into the cloud, and whether that be public or private or Azure or Google, I don't care about that, but it needs to become someone else's responsibility for those reasons I talked about.
Hmm.
And for cybersecurity and disaster recovery, let them deal with the generators and the fire suppression and
Yeah.
having data centers all over the country. I am no longer in the position to be able to do that for myself. So to answer your question, I would rapidly accelerate my transition to cloud for almost everything.
Yeah, excellent. Really, really strong answer on that one. And for all the reasons you outlined, right? So security, disaster recovery, balancing workloads. But here's an interesting thing that's come up is, and maybe let me pause here and say, what percentage of your workloads currently are in the cloud?
I would
You
say
say
30%.
about 30%. Yeah. And we've asked this question too, what portion of your company's workloads will be or are on the cloud, on IaaS or PaaS cloud? And so, right around now, we've got about in the 40s, is what we've seen. But, predictions that this might get up as high as the 60s, up in a few more years. Some analyst firms are predicting it'll be 70, 80% in the cloud. Yet, we're hearing some interesting kind of, maybe they're anecdotes, or we're hearing some news stories, buyer's remorse, you might want to call it. But a lot of organizations now are starting to pull stuff back off the public cloud and put it into private cloud or even on-prem. So maybe there's been a souring potentially around costs with the cloud. Any comments or reactions to that? Have you experienced any of that? Maybe some difficulty keeping budgets in line, or costs under control with the cloud, or anything like that?
So, yes and no. So, what I'll say about that is we're uniquely situated in that our state, the state of California, set up its own cloud services for organizations such as myself to subscribe to. It's called Cal Cloud.
Hmm.
So, for things that are I need the most security and the most service level, I can put it into a Cal Cloud, and then they aggregate that, and then they get economies from scale from the cloud vendors we're all familiar with.
Hmm.
So I think I'm all right with that. And again, when we started this conversation, we were talking about predictability and stabilization of price.
Hmm.
So they're able to offer that.
Yeah.
So I have some cloud alternatives that others may not be able to subscribe to. And I do feel I can't think of an example where I'm bringing things back off the cloud and putting it back on prem. But I can think of places where I'm switching from public to private or private to public or to this Cal Cloud.
Sure, sure. Interesting. Yeah, you're in a unique situation, I think, in your state. Do you have colleagues around the country you keep in touch with that are in similar roles that don't have it as easy? They don't have a Cal Cloud to rely on, and what do
Yeah,
they say about their cloud journeys?
yeah. Again, they feel that those costs are not predictable and that they are ever escalating, and that they don't have control or a way to anticipate or predict what they might be in the future. And that's because of two things. That's because of the cost of these subscription models if they don't enter into long-term contracts. But it's also in that hockey stick of the data where it's getting very challenging for us to even predict how much data we're going to have in the Internet of Things and edge computing and video and high def video and sensor data. So the growth of the data that needs to be stored, or the compute, is also getting very challenging to predict at this point.